With my buddy Chubbs. I know I said I would go do the outside on my next video. Not sure whether that's going to happen today or not. But my big kids wanted you to see their Lego creations. That is tiny Spider-Man inside of a big spider mech.
Destroy! Pew, 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 pew!
Captain Peanut here earned a new Lego set by completing a big school project that was very intimidating and that he didn't want to do, but he worked hard at it for several months. And now they got new Legos and he's practicing following directions to set them up. And here is Princess Peanut also playing with Legos. Now, we're going to go downstairs to get some tomatoes to go in my lunch and give the mealworms their lunch. We have some mealworms living by the toad box to feed the toad. So, here's my lunch. Got a spinach salad with some shredded carrots and a salmon patty. Here's the mealworms lunch, the core of my carrot that I shredded with a vegetable peeler. And this is going to hold the yucky old carrots that we take out of the mealworm box. I am storing my tomatoes in the basement. Kids, a little less yelling, please, because the basement is an awful lot like a root cellar. Good for storing produce because the temperature is low, but the humidity is a little bit high. So, you have something to say, Chubbs? Hi. So down we go to the basement. We'll start with the mealworm box. Here we go. Now we're back in the light. Oh, I found that sound effects help with everything when it comes to kids. He hates me wiping his face, but if I go pew, pew, pew with each swipe, then it's a fun game. Same thing with me standing up and sitting down while I'm carrying him. He doesn't like that much, but if there are sound effects, he will tolerate it with equanimity. So here's the mealworm house. We've got a couple of pupas and a couple of beetles in there. And we're just going to change out the carrots, which are a combination of water source and nutrition for them. These old carrots in my mug. And more. There's one more. You can see that this one has been chewed on a bit. There are some little parts missing because they've been eating it. Now we'll put the new carrot in. There we go. Oh, get this back up on the shelf. Everything is harder and slower when you do it with one hand. Oh yeah. Okay. Now to get some tomatoes. Oh. Chubbs is getting heavy, man. Whew. Here we go. I apologize for the jittery video. The low light conditions down here are not the best. Now, here's my bookshelf, which you probably can't see real well, but it has a bag of potatoes and some tomatoes on it. Ugh. Now, I'm going to grab some tomatoes in my pot here. And I'm just going to set my mug on top of them because they're not going to be in there long. Now, I'm going to do a quick update on the plants that are down here too, because it's only been a few days, but there's been some developments. Have been some developments, I should say. So I learned about the celery that maybe I just gave up too soon. I've watched a really interesting video by urban farmer Curtis Stone. You should check him out. He's awesome. About cut and come again celery. Celery apparently is really slow to get started, but then once it does get started, you can harvest it pretty frequently by just picking off the outer stalks, and it'll just keep producing new ones for like ages. So I'm gonna maybe give these guys a little more time, see what happens. It looks like the toad is ready for a meal. He is hanging out next to his food bowl, telling me he wants to eat. So we might have to harvest a few mealworms. Also, my sprouts here have sprouted. This one is a combination of kale and spinach, I think. Or maybe it was the last of the chard. No, it's kale because it's got the funny blobby brassica leaves. Anyway, and here's some more. And my potatoes are still doing well. We've got more potatoes sprouting. Some ones that I thought weren't gonna bother are finally poking through the surface here. There's another one. There's a new one hanging out in Spider Town. And 3 more over there. So the potato bucket is doing well. And I'm trying to be patient, waiting until the right time to add more dirt to it. I don't think I'm gonna make potatoes an indoor thing again in the future because they grow too slowly, and I can get more bang for my buck by just growing tons of greens indoors and growing, a good crop of potatoes once a year outdoors. But anyway, this was a worthwhile experiment, and I learned that the bucket, potatoes in a bucket, that whole thing does in fact work. So I'm going to set this right here while we grab some mealworms for the hungry toad. The toad's name is Squishy. My son named him. He is a wild-caught American toad that we just picked up off the lawn at our old apartment complex that had a bunch of ponds and a bunch of toads in the ponds. Now, I don't really like touching the mealworms, but Annie is busy right now, apparently, so you can probably tell by all of the stomping what she's up to. They're running around being crazy like they do. Okay, let's find some that are alive. That one is alive. Don't like touching these things. It's funny, I used to be the kid who loved bugs, just like my daughter, but somehow I got over it. And I just don't really love the bugs so much anymore. Except for butterflies, of course. Okay, we got one little guy. I'm gonna use this here nail to kind of shoo him off of the edge of this little lid. There's one. These are really small mealworms. This last batch that we bought. I haven't wanted to pay a bunch of money to buy like 500 of them online, which is like kind of the minimum order for when you are buying a starter culture, because that just seems like a lot. Our toad doesn't eat that many, and now that he's done growing, now that he's reached his full adult size, he doesn't eat that many of them, and he's about to go into his semi-hibernation state for the winter. Since he's wild caught, he's used to having a brumation period when it gets cold, and here are a few bigger ones. This will be good. So he kind of sort of hibernates. I know hibernation and brumation are not exactly the same thing, but I'm using them interchangeably here. So herpetologists, give me a break. He kind of sort of just slows down over the cool season. He doesn't just completely shut down, but he'll eat less frequently and be less active over that time. And we're getting to be near that time. There we go. All right, I think that should be enough. Got some mealworms for him. And I put him in here where we have some vitamin powder to boost their nutritional value since he has a monotonous diet. Now I'm gonna dump him in. We will open up the lid. He lives in a Sterilite tub with a piece of screen held on the top with binder clips. This is where the food is, so he's not exactly trying hard to escape. And and the mealworms can't climb the slick plastic walls. So it actually works out pretty well. I wouldn't feed him crickets in a container like that though. Ooh, no, crickets are escapey and they're gross. So that's why we do mealworms. Mealworms are way less escapey than crickets. Now, if I'm slow and careful, you guys might be able to get a good glimpse of Mr. Squishy. Can you see him? I don't know if you can see him there, but he's there. That jar lid is his food bowl. And just over this way is Mr. Squishy at the ready, signaling to me that he wants his food. So, unfortunately, I only have two hands, and one of them is holding my buddy Chubbs here. So, I'm going to have to prop up my camera like that, and you won't be able to see exactly what I'm doing. But I'm taking off one of the binder clips, peeling back the screen, and now I'm going to dump these here mealworms in to the food bowl. There we go. Now, you can see them all in there with a little bit of residual oatmeal and vitamin powder, which I figure is okay because once in a while I guess wrong and Squishy does not eat all of his bugs. And so with a little extra oatmeal ending up in there, the leftover mealworms have something to eat while they're waiting for their demise. There we go. Now, he probably jump up and eat them all right now while we're watching. Because I don't normally wave my hand around over his house while he's eating, and so he's a little freaked out. But anyway, so that's the toad. He doesn't really contribute anything to the green operation, but we like him. And someday, if we have a piece of land and we put a pond on it near the garden, we'll try to catch Mr. Squishy, a female, and we can start a little toad colony to eat garden pests. Toads are great for that. Although frogs might arguably be better because toads are mildly toxic, and not just to humans. They're pretty much toxic to everything, even as eggs. So fish, some fish can eat toad eggs and be fine. Some fish are not interested in toad eggs. Others will eat toad eggs and die. So, I don't know. I'll have to do more research later on. Just a word to the wise about toads. But they are amazing at eating lots and lots of bugs. I was going to empty my laundry there, but I just noticed that all my clean laundry baskets are upstairs. So, I'll do that some other time. But I really need to plant more greens today so we can keep our succession planting on track and not have any gaps in the harvesting. Here's how all my kitchen plants are doing. These ones are getting bigger, and some of them are starting to produce their first set of true leaves. If you look here, you can see these little tiny leaves in the middle that are starting to pop up. And some of the spinach is doing the same. If you look closely at this one here, quite a few of them are starting to produce their first true leaves. And all the rest of these are still going fine. My pruned off piece of tomato plant hasn't died yet. And I'm keeping it propped up so that the transpiration will continue to occur, and hopefully it'll get back on track. Whew. Gotta adjust the chubs here. This beautiful, happy, healthy piece of tomato plant here looked just like that sad, droopy, wilted section a couple weeks ago when I first repotted it here. And it's doing much better now with a similar technique of kind of propping it up so that water will continue to pass through the stem until it kind of props itself up again. So I'm hoping that will also work for that little guy. He doesn't have any roots though, so we'll see. One other update, I think. Everything else is kind of the same, but some of my butterhead lettuce that I interplanted with my indoor tomato here. Some of these have sprouted. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. See that tiny one? 5 little sprouts. And I think I might get a few more before they're all done. Because spacing, I could ramble on for a really long time about spacing, but let's just say sometimes it's not as big a deal as people make it, and you can plant densely and be fine under certain conditions. We'll talk about that another day. But that's the indoor update. Oh, and we've got new buds forming here to get us another round of tomatoes. Here's some more flowers. More flowers here. More flowers here. And flowers here. And flowers here. And flowers here. And flowers here. I think this is one happy tomato plant. I think it's very, very happy to not have been killed by the frost. And it's liking that sunny window and proximity to the heating vent. Down there, see by Hello Kitty and the spike helmet, there's a heat vent right there. I need to change where I'm storing my fruit now that we're using the heater. But that heater is great for all these plants, especially the tomato. All right, that's all for now. Got to figure out what the Chubbs is fussing about. Have a great day. And if you have any green ideas, just grow for it. Because if I can do it, you can.